As if public inquiries were already not pointless enough, a recent piece of legislation now guarantees that they will never be anything other than a charade. On June the 7th, 2005, exactly 1 month before the London bombings, the Inquiries Act became law. Under this new act, any inquiry will be controlled by the relevant government minister who is empowered to block public scrutiny of state actions. This inexplicable change to the way inquiries are run was openly criticised by the Law Society of England and Amnesty International, who stated that the new act means that any inquiry will be controlled by the executive. Obviously the one thing you don't want from a supposedly unbiased investigation. The Canadian judge Peter Corey stated, "It seems to me that the proposed new act would make a meaningful inquiry impossible. The commissions would be working in an impossible situation. The minister, the actions of whose ministry was to be reviewed by the public inquiry, would have the authority to thwart the efforts of the inquiry at every step. It really creates an intolerable Alice in Wonderland situation." While the chairman of the US Joint Committee on Human Rights, Congressman Chris Smith, declared that the bill pending before the British Parliament should be named the Public Inquiries Cover-Up Bill. So if this new act makes inquiries so pointless and so easy to control, the question is why Blair, Clark and the rest of them have seemingly done their best to prevent one happening. We suggest that there will be an inquiry. It will be obstructed from the beginning and it will be controlled by the very people it should be investigating. Be assured it will not be anything approaching a proper investigation. At no point will the inquiry even consider the possibility that the 4 men labelled as suicide bombers could possibly be innocent, or question the lack of evidence against them. It will pass on verbatim the same meaningless, unverifiable assertions made by the police and by the media's anonymous security sources. But it will avoid completely the major contradictions and problems in the official story. They hope at the end of it the public will be satisfied, and the public probably will be. So given that there's never going to be a real investigation determined to actually find rather than hide the truth, what can we do ourselves to uncover the facts? First, demand that the police release the evidence they say they've got. How? File a Freedom of Information request for the CCTV footage that they claim to have but have never released, and for the vast archive of CCTV images that they've never mentioned but must exist if the men took the journey we've been told they did. There is absolutely no reason for us not to see this CCTV footage, other than it not actually existing. Secondly, write to whatever mainstream media you read or watch and ask them why they have not addressed the verifiable mistruths that they have themselves put out about the attacks. Why they have not questioned the obvious discrepancies in the narrative or the contradictions in the police's presentations of the facts. And why they appear to be actively supporting the police and the government over the British public in suppressing information whilst releasing disinformation. And thirdly, write to your Member of Parliament. Ask him if he has read the official narrative and what his views are on the obvious contradictions it contains. Then ask him, as your elected representative, to demand answers from Parliament concerning this attack on the British people. If the official story is right, if the narrative describes the events the way they actually happened, then there is no justification for the police refusing your requests. There is no reason the media would not be properly investigating the details of the official narrative, and there is no reason for your MP to be anything other than open and helpful. But at best their response to you will be polite disinterest. That's if you get a response. And the information requested, the evidence crucial for any of us to make an informed judgment about what happened that day, will not be forthcoming. Don't believe us? Try it. Ask yourself this. If 7/7 happened the way they say it did, why would there be any discrepancies? Why would there be any uncertainty about the movements of these men? Why would there be any contradictions, confusions or inconsistencies in the official story? There wouldn't be. On the contrary, there would be copious amounts of CCTV footage of the 4 men on every step of their journey. There would be numerous eyewitnesses among the victims. there would be no confusion about which train from Luton the men got on, the nature of the explosives, or the times of the explosions. If the official story describes what actually occurred, there would be nothing to doubt.
If London could survive the Blitz, it can survive 4 miserable bombers like this. Not saying there are 4 bombers, not saying there are 4 bombers, not saying there are 4 bombers, 4 miserable events like this.
A rational person reviewing the evidence presented can come to only one conclusion. We are being deceived. The nature of the deception may be uncertain, but its existence is undeniable. If changes are going to be made to our way of life on the basis of what occurred on the 7th of July 2005, and they have been, then we, the British public, are entitled to the full weight of evidence concerning these attacks. The media has an unwritten mandate to present the truth in an unbiased manner, which they have blatantly ignored. And the police, who are our public servants, and the government, who are our elected employees, are, by definition, required to provide it, whether they want to or not. This is an issue that encompasses the very nature of democracy, the basis of government, and the role of the police and the media in our society today. An objective, unbiased analysis of what occurred on the 7th of July 2005 must be made, and a rational debate about how we, as a society, are going to respond to it must be allowed to take place. We owe it to all 56 people who died that day. We owe it to their families, and we owe it to ourselves.